Three, two, one.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading Alright, this is GrokTALK. We got a lot of folks in here today. Just stick it on your head. And we're going to run this segment into the next segment because they just got here and we have plenty to talk about and all kinds of fun stuff going on in the great town of Guilford, New Hampshire, once again in the news. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, Josh Youssef, Mr. William Bear, Susan Olson is behind me, as is Marmar Rogers.
That is correct.
I am Steve McDonald. We are GrokTALK.
You are. We are.
We are.
We all are.
We all are. It's not the same without us. I mean, I may do a lot of the work, but it's not the same if we don't have everybody. Or at least half of everybody.
We're inclusive.
We're inclusive. We're a commune. It's a podcast commune.
Let's not go that far.
All right. No, it's not. We're gonna
Nap.
We're gonna stop the conversation that's going on over there, so we can do what we came here for, which was to have a conversation on the air. All right. I'm gonna wait for Mr. Bear to put his headset on, and we're gonna talk about Guilford. You're all stretched out of there. I have a feeling there's a better conversation going on off there than on. It's just a feeling I have. All right.
All right, here we go.
Everybody's here. So there's so I'm just kind of poking around the internet.
I just looked up. It's Mr. Incognito Man.
Fabulous.
I'm poking around the internet and I find this nice article on WND with a picture of Josh's face, and he's really happy.
That was an old picture when I was happy.
The picture's out of context.
Yeah, I know, but that's the picture they chose, and then I'm like, well, what's this? What's going on here?
Oh, man.
And I took a look, and I'm like, oh, it's Guilford.
Yes.
Welcome home.
And I have to apologize to Josh. You sent me that stuff after the call, and then I got sick. And as I've been saying all morning so far, my memory is just so shot to ribbons that what I talk about in the beginning of the day, I can't remember that's what I'm supposed to be writing about by the end of the day.
No worries.
So, please preface our topic.
Well, I'll preface it by saying that in New Hampshire, under RSA 570-A:2, individual citizens like all of us in the room here are prosecuted and find themselves on the chopping block with major prison penalties for wiretapping. And it was recently discovered by Billy's children, and we kind of dug in. We dug in a little deeper with some 91As that the town of Guilford has, with impunity, been recording students wholesale, audio recording and video recording with no notification on the buses, which is required under the statute, and they just think they can get away with this stuff. And so we submitted some 91As over to Kent Hemingway, which is the superintendent of the SAU,
Where
whatever
have I
it is.
heard that name before?
73, is that what it is?
I think it's 73.
SAU 73. And he called me, and so we had a brief conversation. He's like, oh, well, we have it in our handbook, and our handbook's on the website. Do you want me to print that out for you? I'm like, no, that's fine. I'll take the one that's on on the website. That's fine.
So this is Billy. In the handbook, they actually cite the statute.
They cite the statute.
Verbatim.
And so on the bus, there are absolutely no notices whatsoever, but the children, all 46 or 53 of them, or however many kids are on this bus, are being eavesdropped upon, not necessarily by a party to the conversation, but by a third party. Basically, it's an eye in the sky looking down and recording 40, 50, 60 conversations going on at any given time on every single bus. So over the course of how many years? 3, 4, 5 years?
It seems
there
like
could
we're
be
not sure yet, but it seems like
tens of thousands of individual counts of illegal wiretapping going on by the town of Guilford and its transportation partner, First Student, which is, by the way, the largest transportation conglomerate in the world, $7 billion, headquartered in Great Britain, has 66,000 vehicles and 65,000 employees.
Yeah.
So this is not a company. This is not, Bob and Sally's bus
It's a
company,
private
and
bus,
their compliance department, is in a folder in their basement. This is a company that has a legal team, presumably larger than the state of New Hampshire's legal team.
Yeah. Now the question is when Kent said, "Well, it's posted on our website," can he prove when that was put up there? Because we're being the geeks that we are, we
Right.
know that we can make a change to except for the
Just
New
like
Hampshire
that.
GOP, which doesn't seem to understand
they
the
couldn't-
concept.
yeah.
They can't update their website, on time. But you can update a website in 30 seconds if you wanted
From
to.
my phone. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. The 91A request, the first one is due today. So, of course, they'll have the benefit of Monday.
No, they won't.
That's right, because the snowstorm, right?
No, President's Day.
Oh, presidents and a snowstorm. So Tuesday.
And then there's Tuesday, Wednesday, there's another storm coming, so you might have to wait till the end of the
well,
week.
and he'll close
So it
school.
might be till the spring.
Yeah, exactly.
July 4th.
July
maybe.
4th.
Groundhog Day means 6 more weeks for you waiting for your right to
That's
know
exactly
request.
right. So we're going to know, I think I shared the 91As with you.
Yes.
We're very particular
And
about
I will post them.
terrific about the data that we're looking for. I mean, I want purchase orders. I want to know every conversation between and betwixt all of the people that are responsible for posting these signs, signage manufacturers, paid invoices, bank distributions. I want to know specifically when these signs were posted, at what point did they come into compliance, and then I want proof that they were in compliance up to the date, the day before they proved that they were in compliance.
Well, here's a little tangential offspring here. I was going to ask Ed about it because he was at the hearing. I read a piece on. He was testifying at a hearing where they want to put through a bill that will allow government to more highly charge you for submitting such requests
Saw that.
because it costs so much money to do this, and obviously those in government are in favor of this.
HB
Those-
646. I
Yes.
called it an act making public information a luxury item.
Oh yes, you did. Okay, good. I'm glad you got
They'll
that.
probably put a luxury tax on it.
Then
too.
tax
Yeah.
the costs on the right to know
Yeah.
fee. Yeah, okay. Sure.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I missed that because Avast kind of took over my computer.
But I mean, what kind of transparency is that
There-
when
it
you're
isn't.
burdening the customer? I almost call the citizen
Right.
with a financial
So-
obligation.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that they won't stall long enough to see that bill pass, and then they can
Well,
come back
today
and
is
say,
day number 10.
well, well, they just have to tell you when. They don't actually have to hand it over.
I haven't heard anything from him. Nothing.
Well, the reality is that there's not that much that's in dispute. Kent Hemingway essentially, or literally, admitted that they've been out of compliance. We have video that's really not quite public yet. Video that shows that he said that there was only one bus that he knew of that was out of compliance. They've taken care of it. They've remediated the problem. Everything's fine. Go back to work. But the reality is we have video showing that there were at least half the fleet in Guilford, at least half the fleet that we've looked into was out of compliance, that they had no signs that were posted in conjunction with the audio and video.
Okay.
So-
And off camera, we have a question from Susan. I need
Since-
a fisheye lens.
Since when are people allowed to videotape minors at all without their permission or their parents' permission? Since when can you videotape a minor child without their knowledge or their parents' knowledge?
There's actually an exception carved out in the statute to the wiretap law. And this,
That you can videotape minors.
it's actually a section entitled Video and Audio Recording on School Buses. So it's specifically tailored to school buses. And they said you're accepted from
The prohibition.
from the prohibition on wiretapping, but you must follow these specific procedures.
They're very simple and they're not onerous.
They're not burdensome whatsoever. The first procedure is that the school board needs to establish a policy and permit this behavior to happen on the buses, or this practice to happen.
Just a footnote, the policy needs to be approved by the parents. There needs to be a public hearing, public input, so that's really the component that's outstanding at this point. We're not sure if they even complied with that aspect of it before they implemented this surveillance.
We've
So
gone
you're
back in the
suggesting, we're
public
going to take a
minutes.
quick break and come back on this, but you might be suggesting that a school board kind of didn't want public comment? Is that?
No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't do that.
They would do that. All right, we're going to be
You
right
must be a
back. We're going to
conspiracy
continue this
theorist.
into segment 4, and we're going to suck all of segment 4 up with it because it's a great topic. We'll be right back.
New Hampshire is famous for scenic drives, but they're tough to enjoy when you're on your way to the doctor. Because Obamacare limits your choices, some will have to drive more than an hour to see a doctor. What's health insurance worth if care isn't there when you need it? Jean Shaheen voted for Obamacare, putting your doctors and hospitals further out of reach. Tell Senator Shaheen Obamacare is not working for New Hampshire.
Jean Shaheen and her allies are making false claims about her record on veterans. The truth? Shaheen refused to meet with veterans pushing for reform. She wasn't on the committee that wrote the reform legislation and refused to co-sponsor important VA reforms in the VA Management Accountability Act until after the VA scandal broke. When our veterans needed her, Jean Shaheen was AWOL. Tell Jean Shaheen to stop distorting the truth and fix the VA.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
GrokTALK. 3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALk.
All right, GrokTALk, Concord, New Hampshire, CNHT, GraniteGrok.com, room full of people, and we're talking about Guilford, New Hampshire, and the school district, and some wiretapping violations, or the presumption of such, and evidence, and all
Evidence
kinds
in the
of
whole nine, yeah.
evidence in the whole nine, and there's evidence, and it's Guilford.
The thing that's particularly disturbing is that these people aren't contrite, and they weren't contrite when they made the mistake, when they violated Billy's civil rights by wrongfully arresting him, and then after they prosecuted him for 7 months or 8 months, and then the judge basically said, "This is ridiculous."
Oh, I know. I read about that.
I'm paraphrasing.
Congratulations, by the way. It's chilling. Those are the words.
Yes.
Well,
And instead of
thank you to Judge
coming
Carroll
out
for doing the right thing.
And instead of coming back and saying, we respect the court's opinion, and we're glad that we put this matter to bed, they doubled down and they said, well, we still think that he violated this and that.
Oh, yeah. That was our police chief, too.
Yeah, well,
Our new police
That's
chief.
another show.
that's a separate show.
Yes.
Maybe.
That might be that horse might have left the stable already.
We'll schedule that segment later.
Yeah,
So,
that's maybe two
But anyways,
shows.
the point is had Guilford been contrite and truly apologetic, they would have come out, gotten in front of the ball, put a statement on their website, on the SAU's website, and said, listen, we're deeply apologetic. We're very, very sorry that we've been recording your children. We didn't follow the policies. We remediated the problem immediately, and we're ready to take our penalty. I would have a little bit of respect for them.
You know,
But nothing like.
I'm going to get quoted on this, and I really don't care, because being on the budget committee, I've been seeing the same attitude from the Guilford School Board for years, and it certainly hasn't changed. And I'm going to say this. I think we see but a definite trend towards autocratic despotism on that show.
That's right.
That whole show that's called The School Board. And I'm going to blame Sue Allen. She's been one of the constants there. Kurt Weber has been as well since I got involved deeply into Guilford politics. He has decided not to run for re-election. Sue Allen has. But I've already said I've signed up. I'm going to run for school board.
Terrific.
And one of my platforms will be greater civil engagement, because right now they believe they're above everybody else. And this is just one more instance of, who the heck are you to complain about us?
That's right.
Well, that's what I mean. You're saying above. They're in a position where they're essentially saying that they're above the law.
Yes.
And very clear criminal statutes we're talking about here. The idea, we all know people who've been put in state prison and in local jails for violating the same statute, not with the school bus per se, but in other manners, without even, unfortunately, unwittingly sometimes. And they're prosecuted routinely in this state. And for this municipality and for this school district and for this bus company to get away with this, possibly thousands and thousands and thousands of counts of illegal surveillance of our children who are minors, is just absolutely outrageous. I mean, who do these people think they are that they could do this? And what is the community going to do?
Well,
we're going to just say it's a mistake.
It's for their safety.
It was an oversight.
It was an oversight.
Same issue with notice. It was an oversight. And it's amazing that last time when I went through, it's amazing that I came from New Jersey thinking I was going to get more liberty and a little more space and a little more freedom. And this is what I find myself in. But it's absolutely, because I've never been involved with things like this in other areas.
I'm just curious, were these buses built with these cameras in them, or did they
They've been retrofitted.
Okay, that's an interesting conversation, isn't it?
Certainly is.
And you're looking for information about that as well, right? Is that
Well,
part
yeah.
of the process of
we
the
want to know the date
purchase
the cameras,
orders? And,
exactly, the purchase orders for the cameras.
yeah, because
the
you
date they
don't.
were installed.
You don't accidentally kill somebody while you're cleaning your knife, and you don't accidentally put a camera in a bus that didn't have one. It just doesn't happen.
Well,
it's premeditated and deliberate.
You go in with your electronics bag and you go out, and the camera's mounted. Where's that camera?
This is really very simple. It's aside from the aspect of the statute in which they probably may not have complied. That is the proper procedure to implement this policy and these cameras, this surveillance to begin with. It's an issue of notice again, just like with what happened to me with my daughter. If they should have told me it was in the book, and we could have discussed it, and they should have been honest about what the offending parts might be, and we could have made an informed decision. But that's not what happened. It's the same thing again. They will not tell you what they're doing. They refuse to be transparent on what they're doing, and now they're violating criminal statute. Yeah. And it cannot stand.
It all goes back to our friend Ian Underwood when he first testified on the gun bills last year, that if our elected legislators cannot respect our fundamental law, which is the Constitution and the plain words therein, why should we obey your laws? And from what I understand, and I wasn't there was a lot of disconcerted looks on the folks that were listening to the testimony. They just, what? And they think it's a given that they can write the laws for everybody else, that the laws that are in place are for everybody else, as you said, Billy, except for them. And we're seeing this over and over and over again. We talked earlier about Obama's executive amnesty, about basically becoming citizens by de facto, and the earned income credits that were started to be brought up, where the IRS has just decided, they are now owed or entitled to 3 years worth of back earned income tax credits up to $27,000 a year. And I'm going, this is my dismay that I expressed earlier. Is like, what is this country coming to? We used to value the rule of law, and now we see those in government openly flaunting it. And I can give you example after example after example after example after. Okay, that's enough. Over and over again, of where if those in government aren't going to follow the law or create law, let's see, who was it
This is where you get to tax evasion in failing societies.
I think that this is button pushing. I think, at least on some level, they want very desperately to have an excuse to declare martial law.
100%.
And they are doing everything they can to piss off everybody they can so that somebody starts a rebellion somewhere and revolts, and that there's arms involved, and they will then bring the hammer down, call in the National Guard, and I'm going to hand my headset to Susan. Hang on.
Back home in Texas, we call it trading licks until somebody has had enough. So that's kind of what's happening.
But you also have to figure they're going to win either way, because while they're pushing our buttons, they are acclimating the masses to this new operating procedure, this new standard operating model. So many of the people that aren't interested in their privacy and their gun rights and their First Amendment rights, people that just could care less, they want to go along, they trust the government, they believe the government's there, they're going to go along with this new ratcheted up version of the government. Whereas if they do revolt, then they create... so under that first premise, they've now got more people on their side, and alternatively, they push the wrong button, one of our buttons, so to speak, and they have an excuse to declare martial law.
Yes, Reverend Nehemiah. First they came for the Jews.
That's it, yeah.
So as you think, back to Guilford, this
Yes.
bus company is this huge company. I mean, what degree of involvement do you expect a lot of pushback from the Big Brother bus line, or whatever you want to call them?
When you say pushback, I mean,
Well, I mean, they're involved somehow, right?
Well,
I mean, it's their buses.
Right. Well, they'll blame it on the school board. The school board will blame it on them. They'll probably blame it on my kids for talking on the bus or something that they shouldn't.
How
have
dare
talked
you notice there's cameras on
I
here
mean,
lately?
whatever. So I mean, basically, it's we're gonna see what this legal system's really about. I mean, unfortunately, I had some very bad experience with how this works. I mean, Josh and I were just talking about this in the car. I worked in the district attorney's office in Bronx County in New York City for 2 years in a major offense bureau, all felonies, murders, kidnappings, rapes, everything, armed robberies. And I literally saw people walk out of the courtroom who literally got away with murder. I saw it every day. And now I'm seeing it from the other perspective. I'm seeing innocent people who are pursued by the government for doing nothing illegal or immoral, or this is happening. And these people, this bus company and this school district need to be held accountable to the same criminal statute that we're held accountable to. And if not, that it's really over. It's really over. This is like the mop-up operation, as I see it. It's that far gone.
I'm not so sure that we're quite to the mop-up operation. I think this is building up to, as Ed said, a tipping point in the last segment before you guys came in. And I really believe it's right, because the model is the organizer-in-chief. The basic thing is to rub the wound raw and keep rubbing and keep rubbing and rubbing. That's the Alinsky way. And we're seeing this over and over again. We see the IRS Koskinen, or what's his title, commissioner, saying, stalling on the lowest learner emails until it finally comes out. We see that now if you don't give us our money, everybody's going to get bad customer service. It's thing after thing after thing, where it just never stops, and it's replicated over the entire of this Leviathan government. We've always had the petty despots at the local level. The good old boys at the local level already running it, and we see this in the Guilford School Board, which is one reason why I'm running to say, I've always been about the taxpayer first, that the spending should never rise above that of the average family in town, that it should be open and transparent. I mean, they've got plenty to work. They will have plenty to work with. I've got Guilford Grok and Granite Grok for them to pick and choose with. I expect to get everything thrown at me for this, and I'm going to laugh because we can do the same thing. But I guess even though I lament that this is happening, it's still up to folks like us who are interested in the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, due process and all of that have to make that stand, because we are the sheepdogs. We are the ones who are looking out for those that just want to live their lives, build up their careers, take care of their families, be happy with their friends, their pursuit of happiness. Face it, folks, the reason why we're all in this room, we are the sheepdogs.
Just very briefly, at what price are we the watchmen or the sheepdogs?
Exactly.
Everybody's going to have that price. I know that I have paid, you have paid, we all pay in one way or another. The question is what is that ultimate line that you will not cross, or is there no line at all? I mean, it really depends on how far things get pushed. And we may not know. We may say what we know what that line is. We may say that there's no line, but until that time comes, we don't know. I don't think any of us can.
And what are we
say.
trying to save?
I believe that the idea of a limited government, that the people are the sovereigns, that government should serve us and not the way around, that I believe that we are seeing a government that is trying to take the place of the old-time aristocracy and clerisy that we fought a revolutionary war for back in the 1770s.
The problem is that so many people today, over the past 40 years, of this new education that people have been getting in America.
And that's the problem.
We now have a populace that's dominated by dummies. People that are just ignorant. I don't mean that offensively, although people I expect will take offense to it.
Ignorance might be a better word.
I mean, you're young enough to have been through that education
I did.
system, but you didn't succumb to it.
Because I resisted it. But the problem is most people are trained to just shut up and listen to the authority.
I think you're seeing a change in that, and you started to see that with the Tea Party.
Thank you, Mrs. Obama's school lunch program.
Oh, yeah. That is causing such burning.
You have no mic.
Yeah.
Oh, he can't not talk. Let's go. Give him a mic. Give him a headset. He's got something to say.
Mike can't mic.
So that school lunch program is causing such burning resentment that you might actually inoculate some kids against the indoctrination system. But the point I wanted to make earlier, there was a comment captured, I think, during his San Francisco fundraiser on his way to, guess what, golf, in a place where you shouldn't be wasting water on golf courses, in that he said he's going to try to squeeze as much change into the next 2 years as he can. You talk about tipping points? Over to you.
All right. So.
But back to Guilford. So you've issued the 91As. You haven't received anything back as of yet. What is the next step in the process, if there is indeed a process?
Well, just we have received some links back to their policy, which is really an admission that they knew what the law was. So we have.
And then we have the signs that magically appeared last Tuesday. So that's a de facto admission of noncompliance.
So and then we have an actual admission of noncompliance by Kent Hemingway, saying that at least one bus was out of compliance. So we have that too.
So is it okay to break the law once in a while, or do you have to break it wholesale in order to get prosecuted for it? I mean, do you need to break the law on all the buses in order for it to be a crime, or can you just break it in one? I mean, if we speed once in a while, that's when we get caught, right?
Well, it goes back again to Ian Underwood's. Either words have meaning or they have no meaning at all. And I think that's the basis where I could answer your question is one is sufficient, especially where we should be holding government to a much higher level of accountability. Kent Hemingway is an appointee, but, there is a school board. Votes are coming up, but I think we do have the legal process. We are supposedly under the rule of law and having that process through, although they're going to do the same thing over and over again. They're going to drag this out for as long until you give up. If you give up,
this is a war of attrition, and they're hoping we're going to give up first.
It always is, and with these kinds of people, and I'm going to say Sue Allen, Kurt Weber, they dislike intensely being challenged.
That's right.
That is, they're ensconced in their own little world where they are king and queen. And how dare you challenge them?
I mean, if you want to even think about the whole concept of prosecutorial discretion, the prosecutor could say, listen, I'm going to opt not to pursue this. But that's when there's some wiggle room in the statute. When you have the facts 100% established and not in dispute whatsoever, and you have the law very clearly written in black and white letters, or black letters on white paper, there's nothing in dispute here. There's no discretion. There is no room for them to shimmy in and out and exercise any prosecutorial discretion. This is almost like, in the civil sense, a summary judgment. It's you go in and there's no facts in dispute and you're entitled to a judgment as a matter of law. The judge just says, here you go, buddy.
Well, good point. The question is, what is the remedy?
Well, for the 91A, I mean, if we have to go for an expedited hearing at the Superior Court, That's the next step. If I don't hear from them, then what other recourse is there?
No. My question will be, whenever you take somebody to court, there has to be a problem, which you've now stated, and the court is supposed to supply some kind of remedy. Now, you're not a resident of Guilford.
Correct. So the extent of my standing is the 91A.
Right. The other question will be, and I would not have standing, even though I'm a Guilford resident. I don't have kids that have been on that bus.
You weren't an injured party.
That is correct.
We're talking about we're talking about two different tracks. There's the criminal track, which we don't need standing for. This is a matter of telling the prosecutor, this is what's going on. Now do something about it. Go prosecute. That's what you're getting paid for. That's the first track. The second track is, like you identified, the civil track, which is obviously you need standing. You need to ostensibly show damages. What's interesting, which we didn't touch on, is that this statute very clearly provides for recovery with no actual damages. It provides for liquidated damages at $100 a day per incident.
Oh.
Okay, so in that case, and punitive damages. So the legislature took this very, very, very seriously. Liquidated damages are unusual, especially in a criminal statute where they cite it to the potential civil lawsuit. So in my case, for instance, my children have been on that bus for approximately a year and a half, being illegally listened to by a third party. Okay, without proper notice, without proper compliance with the statute. We figured it out. It's basically $50,000 in liquidated damages. $100 per incident, liquidated damages per day.
Wow,
okay?
That could add up quite a bit.
And then there's punitive damages, which when you're dealing with a $7 billion national New World Order corporation and an insurance company, who obviously is going to be involved with this, now punitive damages would be interesting.
Okay, side issue. Push your windscreen down again. That I got to bring that mic home. No, the covering.
The little foamy thing on the front there.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
There you go.
But the question is, though, you can go after the commercial entity, and that is one thing. But if you go after civil damages, the $100 a day, the school board's going to be associated with that. What is your answer to say, okay, if we have to pay this as the school board, it's going to result in higher taxes for everybody to pay this in one way, or would it be possible to go after these individuals that made the decisions, the school board, and sue them personally and hold them personally accountable, so it doesn't come out of the taxpayers' pockets, but will it come out of their personal pockets? Is that something that's possible?
It makes no difference. It's probably...
You still have no mic, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
I need more money to get more of these headsets.
Yeah, it'll make no difference because if the school board is smart, they'll have some kind of director's insurance protecting them from being individually sued.
I'm sure they have insurance.
Pardon?
They have insurance. I'm quite
sure. So the school board, it'll come out of the town's pocket, but in the form of increased insurance premiums. Not to say that it shouldn't happen. The question is, okay, on the one hand, it's your town and you're hurting yourself. On the other hand, if you don't make an example of somebody, they'll keep on doing it everywhere. And the final point is it's per person day. So, however many schools are in the school district times the number of days this has been going on, unannounced, is the amount they're liable for, which is going to be huge. And if we find the same corporation is doing it in other towns, the amount you can go after the company for is potentially, off the charts.
Well, my son goes to Stratham Memorial School in Stratham, which is SAU 16. I can't keep all these subdivisions organized in my head. Anyway, so I went to pick him up from school the other day, and I just decided I'd peek on one of the buses. And I asked the bus driver, is it customary practice for SAU 16 or whatever?
This was a random bus.
This was completely random, because my son doesn't ride the bus on Wednesdays because I pick him up. So I walk up and they go, oh yeah, we audio and video record. Okay, so I look up, no sign. He was in a rush to move his bus forward, so I decided to go to the next bus and repeat the operation. So I went in with my camera on, and I video and audio recorded. I gave the woman notice, you're being video and audio recorded. And I'm wondering, is it customary practice for you people to video and audio record the students? Yes, it is. Is it practice all throughout the SAU? Yes, it is. It's been going on for a while? Yes, it is. I pan up to the front of the bus. There's no notice. I look to the side of the bus. Who's running the bus? Our friends in Great Britain.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. We're seeing this in a variety of different locations where the local school boards, we've seen Dover, Malton Borough, Guilford, oh gosh, what's the rest? I've just gone blank. But there's probably 5 or 6, Interlakes, Hampton, where all of these school boards are taking this autocratic standpoint or outlook upon those that have elected them. They're supposed to be serving. Government is supposed to do the things that we pay them to do. They are our employees, but they're trying to reverse the whole relationship here. And
Right, the servants have become the masters, and the lawmakers have become the lawbreakers.
Marmer had asked while we were talking how many districts do this, and I think we're going to find out.
I think it's going to be massive.
And we're going to probably find out that they are scurrying right now to retrofit buses all over the state of New Hampshire, and that needs to be uncovered.
But that just stops the bleeding. That doesn't account for the blood that's been lost. I mean, there's been a lot of blood lost. There's been a lot of crimes committed. The crimes have been continuing up until the time that they do retrofit these buses with the signage and the notice and what have you. But if there is no penalty, there is no reason for the law, period.
Well, there is no rule of law.
Susan.
Could you ostensibly subpoena individual bus drivers to say when that sign went up?
100%. Once we file a lawsuit. And, of course, the prosecutor could do that, of course, yeah.
And most likely those school bus drivers would be paying their own legal fees.
I would tend to think not. I mean, I don't know.
The bus company would jump in for them, and that would...
Maybe.
Are they employed by the bus company, or are they employed by the district?
The drivers are employed by the bus company.
Okay, well, that's very interesting, because there's a lot of bus drivers out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they're 65 or 66,000 employees of First Student. So
in New Hampshire?
All over the world.
No, all over the world.
Are they part of Bluebird? Is that the same thing?
That's
Bluebird is the manufacturer
of the bus.
They actually, the same company owns Greyhound. They're humongous.
And Bolt Bus.
Bolt Bus, yeah.
That's what brought down the Suharto family in Indonesia, just so you know.
Really?
The daughter owned the bus company, and it was uncollateralized, and the international bankers came in and said, how's that working for you?
All right, so everybody should be doing 91As in their towns for purchase orders for signs to be put on buses.
And the thing of it is they may be able to escape that particular line of questioning, because they, presumably, the superintendent makes a phone call over to the bus manager and says, hey, you guys are not in compliance and we're taking a lot of heat for this. So then the bus company, which is not subject to 91A, will...
No, but the conversation from
the conversation back and forth
is
correct. And that's what we've asked for.
Except in Timberlane.
We've asked for those
that's
records as
another
well.
One. Yeah.
We've asked for all those conversations. So
cool. All right, well, it's a big deal. I mean, people are like, oh, they don't realize. I mean, we have this law. It's very strict. It's very detailed. I mean, the freaking district has a policy in its own manual that it's violating.
But this Safety Sally society that we live in right now is all about protecting the children. And what would you do if your son got beaten up on a bus and it wasn't on video? You same people would probably be complaining that there were no cameras.
My kids went to public school on the buses, and the crap that goes on.
Well, the thing is, neither of us, and I haven't heard anybody like who is sympathetic, let's say, to my position or Josh's position, argue that video cameras and audio recording should not be on the school buses. I've never said that. I haven't even really thought about it. That's not the point. The point is very focused and very simple. These people are breaking the law. They haven't given notice, and my son and my daughter are sitting on that bus for a year and a half, having conversations with each other, having conversations with friends about who knows what. Well, like I said, who knows what is the bus company and the school. I don't know what they said, but they know what my children said, and they were recorded illegally. That's what's going on. This isn't about safety. That's a different discussion. We might all say, after we get all the facts, that cameras should be on school buses and there should be audio recording. That's fine. The legislature allowed for that. They just said, here, everybody else is banned. We're going to carve out an exception for you, but there's a couple little rules you have to follow. Please follow the rules. And they didn't follow the rules. It's that simple.
And it really shows which is more important in most people's minds. And I think you're right, Billy. Most people would say, stop the fighting. Well, unfortunately, the rights, as we've talked about a number of times, seems to be a much more nebulous idea for today's society. Yet we all know in this room that those rights, the due process, the rule of law, without that we wouldn't be a republic. Without the respect for the right to private property, we wouldn't be a republic. Due process, we really wouldn't be a republic. Those three things are very much important, but because of our educational system, they're
people have
subsumed.
lost interest in that.
Well, or they don't understand the importance of them, that those undergird all the rest of this
clearly
stuff.
going to be characterized as it's going to be a false choice between school safety and recording, and that's not the choice.
Well, you've made
we
it
could
quite
have,
clear.
We could have both.
You made it quite
Follow
clear
the
what the
law.
issue is. They didn't
Follow
follow
the
the law, and that's where we're going. This is GrokTALK. We'll be back. We will be back after
Next
I
week.
stumble. Next week, more guests, more news, more opinion, more GrokTALK.
GrokTALK.